On Sunday, June 22nd, a brutal massacre unfolded inside a church in Syria. Muslim terrorists murdered 25 Christians, mostly women and children, and wounded nearly 100 more during a sacred worship service. According to eyewitnesses, at least 2 armed men stormed the Mar Elias Greek Orthodox Church in Damascus during Mass, as some 350 worshippers were gathered in prayer and indiscriminately opened fire, turning the sanctuary into a scene of chaos and carnage. Then, one of them detonated his explosive belt inside the church, amplifying the devastation. A relief worker who arrived soon after the attack described the harrowing scene. "When we got to the church," he said, "we found the doorway filled with body parts. Photographs from the site reveal charred and blood-splattered floors with walls peppered by deadly shrapnel. I've seen such images before. The horror is impossible to describe." As devastating as this latest Islamic terror attack on a Christian church is, the response from the international community has been, at best, muted. So here's my burning question of the day. Why is this atrocity not enough to rouse the United Nations and other international bodies to take notice and speak out the way they always do when Muslims suffer violence at the hands of non-Muslims? For example, 2 years ago, the United Nations boldly declared March 15th the International Day to Combat Islamophobia. What triggered this strong and public move? Simple. On March 15th, 2019, an Australian gunman named Brenton Tarrant stormed 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, killing 51 Muslim worshippers and injuring 40 others. Hence my question, if one horrific attack on a mosque was enough for the UN to institutionalize a global day of remembrance and awareness, what about the countless and often far deadlier Muslim attacks on non-Muslim places of worship? Why have these countless massacres of Christians in their churches failed to spark a similar global outcry? To be clear, the Damascus church attack is not some isolated aberration. Indeed, to grasp the scale and severity of this ongoing tragedy, here is a sobering list of fatal Muslim attacks on Christian churches in recent years, organized by numbers of casualties. Brace yourself. Sri Lanka. On Easter Sunday, 2019, a Muslim extremist detonated bombs at 3 churches and 3 hotels, killing 359 people, mostly Christians, and injuring over 500. Pakistan. After Easter services in 2016, Islamic terrorists bombed a park crowded with Christians. More than 70 were killed, again, mostly women and children. One witness recounted, quote, "There was human flesh on the walls of our house." Democratic Republic of Congo. In February 2025, Muslim militants of the Allied Democratic Forces forced 70 Christians to march inside a church, then tied and brutally decapitated all of them. Iraq, October 31, 2011. Mirroring the recent Syrian attack, Muslims stormed a Baghdad church during worship, firing indiscriminately and detonating suicide vests, killing nearly 60 Christians, including women, children, and infants. Nigeria again. On Easter Sunday 2012, Muslim terrorists bombed 2 churches, killing more than 50 and injuring many more. Nigeria again. On Pentecost Sunday 2022, Muslim gunmen opened fire on a crowded church, killing over 50 and wounding dozens. Egypt. On Palm Sunday 2017, Muslim terrorists bombed 2 packed churches, killing at least 45 and injuring over 100 Christians. Nigeria again. On Christmas Day 2011, Muslim terrorists shot up and bombed 3 churches, killing 37 and injuring nearly 57 Christians. Egypt again. December 11th, 2016, Muslim suicide bombers attacked 2 churches, killing 29 and injuring 47 Christians. Burkina Faso, August 25, 2024. Muslim militants slit the throats of 26 Christians inside a church. Russia, June 23, 2024. On a Sunday, Muslim terrorists launched attacks on multiple churches and synagogues in Dagestan, killing at least 21 and wounding dozens. Among the victims was the elderly Orthodox priest Nikolai Kotelnikov, who had his throat slit. One church was also set ablaze. Nigeria again, April 20, 2012. Muslim gunmen slaughter 20 Christians during Sunday worship inside their church. Democratic Republic of Congo, January 15, 2023. Muslim extremists bomb a church during a baptismal ceremony, killing at least 14 and wounding 63 Christians. Indonesia, May 13, 2018. Muslim terrorists bombed 3 churches, killing 13 and injuring many. Egypt again. On New Year's Eve 2011, Muslim terrorists bombed a packed church in Alexandria during Mass, killing 21. Eyewitnesses reported bloody parts strewn outside, with some attackers stepping on them and chanting Allahu Akbar. Philippines, January 27, 2019. Muslim terrorists bombed a cathedral, killing at least 20 and injuring over 100 Christians. Indonesia, on Christmas Eve 2000, bombings at several churches killed a total of 18 and injured over 100 Christians. Burkina Faso again, February 25, 2024. Muslim gunmen stormed a church, murdering 15 Christians. Pakistan again, March 15, 2015. Muslim terrorists killed at least 14 Christians in attacks on 2 churches. Germany, December 19, 2016. Near Berlin's Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church, a Muslim man drove a truck into a Christmas market, killing 13 and injuring 55. Egypt again, December 29, 2017. Muslim gunmen opened fire inside a Cairo church, killing 9 Christians. Egypt again. Following Christmas Eve Mass 2010, Muslims shot 6 Christians dead as they exited church. Russia again. February 18, 2018. A Muslim attacker armed with a knife and shotgun opened fire in the church, killing 5 women and wounding at least 5 more. France, July 26, 2016. Muslims entered a church and slit the throat of an 84-year-old priest, Father Hamel, as he was celebrating Mass. Turkey, January 28, 2024. 2 masked gunmen entered an Istanbul church and opened fire, killing only 1 man and injuring another. To be clear, this list is far from exhaustive. In Nigeria alone, Muslim extremists have destroyed or torched roughly 20,000 churches and Christian schools, though these are rarely cited on mainstream media. One wonders how many thousands have perished in these largely unreported attacks. Moreover, the church attacks I just listed exclude the many failed terror attempts, such as the 2021 Palm Sunday attack on an Indonesian church, where only the Muslim suicide bombers died, a man and his pregnant wife. Or, closer to home, in the United States, on April 6, 2024, Alexander Scott Mercurio, an 18-year-old convert to Islam, was arrested for plotting a suicide attack on multiple churches scheduled for the following day in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Authorities said he planned to attack local places of worship with knives, guns, and fire. Nor does my list include the constant stream of daily non-fatal attacks and desecrations that plague churches, especially in European regions with large Muslim populations. Even so, based on the very limited list of church attacks and statistics I just shared, Muslims have slaughtered well over 1,000 Christians who were otherwise peacefully worshiping in their churches. Keep in mind, I'm only talking about those Christians killed in the context of church attacks. A far greater number of Christians have been killed by Muslims outside of church and in general. Again, in Nigeria alone, a Christian is slaughtered every 2 hours. But I've left these much greater numbers out to create a perfect analogy between attacks on mosques and attacks on churches. And so we come back full circle to that most pressing of questions that demands an answer. If a single non-Muslim attack that killed 51 Muslims was enough for the United Nations to establish an international day to combat Islamophobia, why have countless Muslim attacks on churches, which have claimed well over 1,000 Christian lives, meaning roughly 20 Christians are killed in their churches for every 1 Muslim killed in a mosque, not been sufficient for a similar response? Why has the UN not created an international day to combat Christianophobia? Put simply, why does one isolated incident of a Western man killing 51 Muslims in 2 mosques command far greater attention and importance than the countless Muslim attacks killing more than 1,000 Christians in their churches? This question becomes even more urgent when we consider that while the New Zealand mosque attack was indeed a shocking aberration, Muslim attacks on churches are disturbingly common, both historically and today. Indeed, rarely does a single week pass in the Muslim world, and increasingly in Western countries, without multiple assaults on or harassments of churches. Furthermore, consider this. The perpetrators of these church attacks often share very little in common. They come from different countries, Nigeria, Iraq, the Philippines, and beyond. They belong to different races, speak various languages, and live under vastly different social, political, and economic conditions. The only thing that unites them, the only thing that fuels their deadly assaults on churches and Christian worshippers, is their common faith, Islam. And it is a faith that, unsurprisingly, contains teachings hostile towards churches and infidels, although this uncomfortable truth is also widely suppressed. In short, Muslim attacks on churches are ideologically motivated. They have been and continue to be systematic and widespread. They represent a very real, ongoing crisis that the international community should be confronting and addressing. Yet the United Nations prefers to dismiss all those massacres of Christians and attacks on churches as unfortunate products of random terrorist groups that have nothing whatsoever to do with and have hijacked Islam. Instead, their full focus, as seen, is locked onto a single incident, a Western man killing 51 Muslims. For the UN, that sole and isolated incident reflects a pattern that needs to be recognized and responded to. And what in reality has been the UN's response? To shut up and silence all who dare connect the dots and expose Islam's heavily documented pattern of violence against non-Muslims, which, make no mistake, is precisely what combating Islamophobia is all about.